In the Sierra Madre Mountains, the Dumagat Remontado people live close to the rivers, forests, and upland sitios of Rizal and Quezon. At the heart of their identity is their system of communication. This is Hatangkai, which means this language. Hatangkai is more than a language. It holds ancestral memory, oral tradition, and daily rhythm. But once common in Rizal and Quezon, it now survives in scattered communities. As of 2019, fewer than 325 fluent speakers remain, mostly elders over 50, and classified as a moribund or dying language under EGIDS 8A. Today, it is no longer passed on to children. So now, where can this language be grouped? Well, scholars classify Hatangkai within the Central Luzon branch of the Malayo-Polynesian family, which is part of the Philippine Negrito languages. Yet, despite all of this, the language faces decline. This endangerment has been accelerated with the dominance of Tagalog in schools, intermarriage with non-Dumagat communities, migration to lowland areas, and the absence of institutional support.
On potok na yan na din, ni makijabat. On potok na yan na din.
In the heart of the Philippines, every word, every song, every story told in a native tongue carries the heartbeat of a people. But as time flows and tongues shift, how do we ensure that these voices, including the Hatangkayi, never fade? The Philippines, known for its many languages, is working to preserve them through DepEd Order Number 74, Series of 2009, or the Mother Tongue-based Multilingual Education Program. This policy allows children from kindergarten to grade 3 to learn in their first language, helping them to understand lessons better and learn more meaningfully. The Republic Act 10533, passed in 2013, made the MTB-MLE part of the K-12 curriculum, promising every Filipino child a spot in the classroom, no matter their language or location. But even with the step forward, there are still challenges since the law doesn't clearly support smaller languages, leaving some communities struggling to keep theirs alive.
But the story doesn't end there. Republic Act 8371, known as the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act, or IPRA law, gives indigenous communities the power to shape their own education. Through it, they can build schools and programs in their own languages, preserving not only their words, but also the wisdom and culture that come with them. Our indigenous people's education clearly follows international standards, mirroring the policies of Bolivia, which acknowledges indigenous people's rights and empowers them to establish their schools. On paper, that is. What does it actually look like in practice? Is the MTB-MLE program effectively implemented and practiced? Let's take a look again into the Dumagat people. The Dumagat people speak a language called Hatangkayi, with 2,500 speakers in Quezon and Rizal, making it an endangered language.
Having rooster crowns as alarm clocks, Dumagat students travel from the mountains to the lowlands, walking long distances just to go to schools like the Santa Ines Farm School built in 1940 and Morong High School established in 1944. After the long journey, they sit down to classes. Despite this, Dumagat still drop out of classes. Why? The Hatangkayi is not used in the classrooms. Tagalog and English are the main languages of instruction. Instructors are not well trained to speak the language of the Dumagat Remontado people.
Furthermore, the curriculum-based study clashes with the Dumagat Remontado's way of life, which revolves around land, apprentice-mentor learning, oral tradition, and their culture. They utilize the kolibao and sing the ilda while walking and working. Traditional lowland schools do not cater to this type of lifestyle. Owing to a general lack of facilities in classrooms and the education system, the indigenous people's education of the Dumagat people suffers more. A 2025 study by the Punong Bayan and Santo Niño Integrated School, where traditional formal education and the indigenous educational system are integrated, reveals that it lacked culturally appropriate educational materials.
Combined with the lack of support and implementation of indigenous people's education, this reduces the drive of the Dumagat people to go to school, other than merely learning the ways of lowlanders to avoid disease. Adding to discrimination, this causes Dumagat students to drop out of school and stop speaking their language.
For the Dumagat Remontado, not using their language in school threatens their traditions, leadership, and sense of identity. Their native tongue is essential, not just for farming and tracking the seasons, but also for passing down knowledge and keeping the community strong.
If they cannot learn their language in schools, which is a clear reflection of poor implementation of MTB MLE program, then what will come of the future of the Dumagat Remontado people and other IP communities? If the Hatangkai language and IP languages are to be revitalized, it must be undertaken by the community. Indigenous languages have faced threats of extinction but are saved by language revitalization, community effort to revive and nourish the language.
Increasing the education budget is also a must in order to allow more support for indigenous people's schools, especially in teacher training, developing culturally relevant materials, and implementing programs that actually correspond to the needs of Dumagat and other indigenous peoples. If the following measures above can be done, the process of revitalization can start with the community at its center. Community-led orthography and literacy programs must be initiated with the Dumagat communities spearheading their efforts. This helps in efforts to turn the Hatangkai language into a written language. When undertaken with the community, these efforts foster a sense of ownership and pride.
Institutions, non-government organizations, and government agencies, specifically the DepEd-IPED program, must aid these community-led efforts to ensure their stability.
But no initiatives will match respecting indigenous people's self-determination, upholding their rights, and creating an IP education system that is culturally responsive. This means not only leaving the policies written, but also consistently implemented and invested on, such as the MTB MLE program.
And so, the story of the Dumagat Remontado reminds us that language is more than words. It is a living memory, spirit, and identity. When education listens to these voices, when it allows every learner to speak, read, and dream in their own tongue, that is when it becomes truly empowering. It no longer teaches about culture, it teaches true culture. This is the essence of the MTB MLE program.
This role of preserving the language is part of preserving their culture, heritage, and environment, honoring their wisdom,
and keeping the spirit of their people alive for generations to come. When language breathes, culture lives. And when culture lives, its spirit continues to breathe.
Potok na yan na din, ni makijabat. Potok na yan na din, ni makijabat. Potok na yan na din, ni makijabat. Potok ng lupang nilikha ni makijabat. Kakbukati agta para sa mga dumagat sa pusod ng Sierra Madre, tahimik ang aming daigdig. Nang dumating ang mga gahaman, dala ay ligay.